So this is just a wee contemplation about the weather in New Zealand lately. So I'm sort of wondering from the latest weather patterns whether perhaps our weather system is changing into more of a kind of rainy season, dry season kind of pattern where the rainy season is during the warmer months, and the dry season is during the winter months, the colder months, which seems to be what we've experienced recently with lots of cyclones over the summer period and very few days of dryness and kind of heat actually. And now we're getting a lot of nice sunny weather in winter. So, yeah, is our system changing into something more akin to, say, South America? I think it's similar in um, South America. From when I went there, there was a rainy season and a dry season, and I believe the rainy season was more in the summer months, and so that's when the storms and the hurricanes and cyclones happen during that season rather than the during the dry season, which is in winter. Hmm. Um, Another thing, this might get me in trouble, but one channel that I listen to, and I am more resonant with this theory. Um, a channel I listened to said that what is happening in the weather patterns, which used to be called global warming, they've now changed it to climate change, and he says eventually they're going to change it to climate cycle. Um, he channeled that actually that what happens generally, we are going through a cyclical change, and that what happens generally is that we go through a heating before a cooling. So what happens is the temperatures heat up, and then I believe what he said was the ice melts, and then the core temperature of the Earth actually gets cooler. So, and that's part of it's a cyclical event that happens. He's referred to it as a mini ice age, and he said there will be more extremes of temperature, including extreme heat and extreme cold, from what I gather leading up to this. Um, and the places where it's cold already is going to get really, really cold. And he suggested moving out of those areas, and that power grids are going to fail, and you're going to need uh, wood ovens, I mean stoves, wood heaters, furnaces. Um, so it's just something to think about, um, to observe, really. Certainly, I don't feel. I think if you look at the temperatures around the Earth, some of them do seem to be getting colder, and some of them do seem to be getting warmer. There's a kind of extremity that's happening, where they're becoming more extreme. And yes, I do think that the Earth is warming, but that um, over time, that might be part of a general cycle to before this mini ice age. And apparently, these ice ages can be actually recorded in the rings of the trees, and that I believe the last one happened a couple of 100 years ago or something. He talked about actually not having photographs to, we didn't have records in those times of the weather, so we're not really aware of what actually happened. Our records in terms of the weather only go back a short while, but you can sort of read them in through the rings in the trees and stuff like that. So that, you know, because we are not don't have a history of our temperatures, we don't really know exactly what happened. But you can look at it through the landscape. And he says actually that the ozone layer goes through a similar cycle, and that it repairs itself over time. So interesting, and I believe that the ozone layer has been actually getting better over New Zealand, as far as I'm aware. He doesn't discount that there might be some effect of carbon footprint either, but and also says that all the measures that we're taking in terms of getting rid of CO2 emissions and, moving towards more sustainable energy and getting rid of pollution, for example, are all things that we need to be doing and are sensible and things that, we need to do for our health. But how much impact they have necessarily on the weather is, he was a bit doubtful about that. It's actually part of a bigger cycle. But they were all good initiatives. So yeah, we need to do those things. The reasons we are doing them might be for the wrong reasons, but they are beneficial nonetheless. It's sort of like you go in one direction and then you find out that the direction that you're heading in isn't quite right, and you adjust it slightly, but the first impulse to go in that direction was actually a correct notion in a sense, but it was coming from a higher consciousness in a way. One thing that has been happening with climate change is there has been a bit of a fear narrative in terms of what we have to do about it. Whereas if you look at Robert Kennedy Jr., who's a candidate that I like in the election, you'll notice that he talks about having a policy about the environment that is more to do with coming from a place of love, where we all have a love for nature and a love for an environment. We love the rivers. People love to go fishing or love to hike in the mountains, or walk along the beach and have clean air. So I think we all can agree that on those things. And so pulling back on these things like coal mining, and which apparently causes acid rain, and all the CO2 emissions that, I mean, even if they aren't causing the planet to heat up, or even if they're not having as much impact on heating the planet as we think they are, they may be, and I'm not saying they aren't, but it's just another theory. But even if they aren't, we still need to clean up the environment in terms of the air, because it's killing us. And certainly I can agree with that. Of course, there is the notion that something like 97% of scientists have said that the climate is because of CO2 emissions and the planet is warming. Well, it is warming, but it might be warming before an ice age. It's not denying that it's warming. It just is saying that there might be something more to it. And also, uh, 97% of scientists probably said that the vaccine would work and be safe and effective. And, you know, over time, I think it's become obvious that it hasn't done what it was promising to do. So just because 97% of scientists say something, it might be more because the media is just reporting on certain scientists and not looking at all of them. It might be that there's another agenda that's involved. Certainly, one of the things that was said was out of the COVID pandemic, there were a whole lot of more billionaires being made, and the gap between the rich and the poor was becoming a lot stronger. So it's more totalitarian control happening, which is kind of scary. So if we can bring our climate decisions back to a state of love as opposed to a state of fear, I think that's the place where we need to come from. Just my 2 cents. Thanks for listening.